Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm starting a trilogy reading vlog of Fire and Thorns by Rae Carson, starting with the first book, The Girl of Fire and Thorns. I read this once before, way back in the day, and I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. I remember absolutely loving the main character and how you'd be going along with a plot, totally loving it and enjoying it, and it would totally flip itself on its head and go in a completely different direction. And as soon as you got comfortable in that plot, it totally flipped again. I also remember this is when I decided that I didn't hate fantasy and that I was just reading the wrong fantasy, and I really enjoyed this one. I also did the little recipe out of the back because our main character loves food. Coconut scones. So I actually made these, and when I talked about my thoughts and feelings on this, but it's been a while and I would love to absolutely reread this and finally move on to the second and the third books. Yeah, I've never read the second or third books, but I've always wanted to, but I'm terrible with trilogies, series, that sort of thing. But I'm trying to correct that this year and kind of catch up and like do all the things this year. So yeah, so I'm going to start with The Girl of Fire and Thorns and then move on to The Crown of Embers, and then finish with The Bitter Kingdom. This is a really old fantasy YA series, but yeah, I remember really loving the first book. It's about our main character Elisa, who is basically, let me just read the back. Once a century, one person is chosen for greatness. And of course, it's Elisa in this. She's always felt powerless, useless. Now on her 16th birthday, she has become the secret wife of a handsome and worldly king. A king who needs her to be the chosen one, not a failure of a princess. And he's not the only one who seeks her. Savage enemies, seething with dark magic, are hunting her. A daring, determined revolutionary thinks she could save his people. And he looks at her in a way no man has ever looked at her before. Elise could be everything to those who need her most if the prophecy is fulfilled. If she finds the power deep within herself, if she doesn't die young, most of the chosen do. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, and I will just update you as to my thoughts as I'm reading it and keep this spoiler free. But then after I read it, hopefully if I can take some good notes, I'm going to do a separate video where I do a trilogy review with a non-spoiler section and a spoiler section. So hopefully that will be after this. I'll let you know like as I get closer to the end of the trilogy if I have enough thoughts and things to share with you. But I'm really excited about at least rereading this because I know I really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping it goes fairly quickly. We shall see. Okay friends, here is my first update. It is Monday afternoon and I only started this last night. I'm on page 98, so I almost read 100 pages of this yesterday, which is really good to like get started with the trilogy. I am enjoying it. I remember a lot of this, which is really surprising. I mean, I recently reread another like book that I loved, and I didn't remember as much, but I really remember like where it started and kind of the progression and the pacing and the characters. I don't remember like the characters' names or things like that, but I remember definitely more than I thought I did, which was really cool. One thing that I'll say about this series is it does have a lot of religious references in it, specifically God, but I don't know if it's the same like Christian God, because they reference these like religious texts and these religious languages, but they're not saying like the Bible. So if that's something that bothers you, like definitely look into it a little bit more before like jumping into this trilogy. But and it is a big part of it because our main character has this God stone implanted in her navel. And it's like this diamond. It's this hard stone like a diamond that's in her navel. I forget how old she was, like I think 7 days old or something like that, that she was in her little bedding and there was this light, and I guess every 100 years, I think it is, a different person is selected and they are the chosen one. And our main character doesn't know exactly what she is chosen for, but at the beginning of our novel, she is married at 16 years old to a prince of like a different kingdom, and she's traveling with her women. What is it? It's called like a maid in waiting, and then someone else. Basically traveling, like her nanny. Basically they're traveling with her husband, the king of this other region, back to that region, and things go down along the way. And then when she gets there, he says like, hey, I need you to do me a favor. Let's not tell anybody we're married or anything like that. But we can just, you know, you are royalty from this other nation, so we can say that. Let's just not say we're married yet. And oh yeah, by the way, don't tell anybody about your godstone. So she reluctantly agrees, and she's kind of finding her footing while she's trying to get to know the people around her and stuff like that, and trying to get the respect she deserves. But it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of difficult, but I'm really enjoying it. I thought I could sit down and read a little bit and update you later when I can, because obviously I'm working this entire week, so I don't know how much I'll be able to update you, but I would like to get a good chunk read. That's the goal. Good morning, friends. It is Wednesday, January 22nd, and I'm here with an update. I am enjoying this so much. I read last night to page 235, so chapter 20, so I'm guessing about like halfway, maybe a little bit more. I love, and I remember how you're just going along and then all of a sudden, boom, something happens that changes the course of the plot and the story, and you're just like, wow. So yeah, that definitely happened like early on, and it was like in the middle of a chapter that it happened. That's how crazy it was. I'm currently in part 2. It's on page 140, so we're just going along. This is one part, and then boom, it changes and it gets crazy from there, and then that's the end of part 1, and then you go into part 2. So I've kind of been in this new part for a while, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, if you're hesitant or you're like a newbie to fantasy, I highly recommend this series. It's super atmospheric. Like, you feel like you're there. You know exactly what's going on, what everything looks like, it smells like, it tastes like, and it's just really, really cool. Our main character loves food, so she describes the food a lot, which is fun. And yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this. So I'm hoping to make another dent tonight. We will see. I do work longer hours today than I did yesterday, so I don't know, but gosh, you guys, I am loving this. Okay, friends, I just finished The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Rae Carson, and I'm gonna talk to you about it more tomorrow, but I wanted to say I'm rating this 5 out of 5 stars. Just as amazing this second time as it was the first time. If you're looking for a starter fantasy, this is for you. Okay, friends, here I am with an official update. It is Friday, January 24th, and last night I finished The Girl of Fire and Thorns. I had hoped that I would move on to Crown of Embers, but I was so exhausted yesterday, like beyond exhausted. I worked a half day, and then I went to the gym and worked my little booty out, and then I went to the grocery store and got one of those like Belger salads from a salad bar, and I got almost a 2-pound salad with all of like the chickpeas and edamames and black bean salsa and corn salsa and the spring mix and cauliflower and broccoli and mushrooms and artichokes and just everything. It was so good. Hold on, my watch is going off. Anyway, yeah, I had the biggest salad, and then I was just exhausted. I just wanted to go to bed right then at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I made it till about 8. And I only did that because I had like a handful of M&Ms and a Mountain Dew. Yeah, so I was extremely tired last night because of the gym, and just, I guess my body needed it. I felt like I was getting sick again. I was kind of coming off of it, and then I started feeling sick again. I'm still just hoping that it's lingering and I'm not actually like getting full on sick again as I cough and hack. Okay, so I wanted to share, oh, this is the wrong book. This is what I hope to read this weekend. I would like to read the whole thing, like tonight and tomorrow, and then maybe start on the third one in the trilogy on Sunday, but we'll see. I don't think we have any major plans this weekend, but I don't know, that remains to be seen. Okay, so the one that I finished, The Girl of Fire and Thorns, I read this several years ago. I don't remember exactly when. And this was at a time that I was reading fantasy, but I wasn't really connecting with it. And I was like, how can fantasy be good? How can people love fantasy? And then I read this, and I consider this like a light fantasy. It's YA. It doesn't have a lot of magic in it. But there's a lot of political intrigue, there's warring countries, there's war, there's death, there's backstabbing, there's kidnapping, there's, what else can I say? There's descriptions of the environment, of the food, and it is like this YA epic fantasy, in my opinion. I really, really enjoyed it. I think this is a great book for, sorry, the light's like reflecting off the book. This is a great book if you're looking to dip your toes into the fantasy genre, YA. Or maybe even adult. This is still a good way to dip your toes into fantasy to see, you know, kind of what it's like. Anyway, yeah, I really loved this. I loved the pacing. I loved the writing. It was descriptive enough to keep you interested and really engaged, but it wasn't overly descriptive, and I don't think that it like lagged at any point. I think that every point was intentional, and like even like, you know how some books like the beginning will drag a couple like chapters and you have to like really get invested. I think you're really invested right from the beginning, like what's happening. It does have religious undertones. I think I mentioned that earlier. There is a godstone implanted in our main character, Elisa's navel. I guess like on her naming day, which I guess is like when they're born or something like that. They saw this white light, and I guess every 100 years there is a new godstone bearer. And of course this comes with kind of a whole thing, you know, like certain people think it means one thing, certain people think it means another, and there's all these like religious texts about it, and the former bearers and what it means, and the act of service and all of this stuff. So it's a lot to unpack, but you never feel bogged down with the information that's going on here. Even with everything else going on, I never felt like, oh, just get over it. Like, you know, we get it. You have the Godstone and you don't understand. Like, I never felt that. And I think that speaks to the great writing and great pacing of the story, and to the characters and the character development, and I just love this one so much. Yeah, so 5 out of 5 stars. Can't recommend this any more possibly than I already have. Embers follows the events of the first one, and all it says on the back is, I'm going to do like this little blurb part. It says, if you were swooning all over the place with the Girl of Fire and Thorns,
get your smelling salts for the crown of embers. And I'm just like, oh no, what am I in store for? So yeah, I'll update you as I start reading this weekend, and I just can't wait to get started. Hi friends, I'm here with an update. It is Saturday morning, 10:46 in the morning, and I wanted to give you an update on The Crown of Embers by Rae Carson. This is the second book in the Fire and Thorns series. I am currently on page 162, so I am here and I have this much more to go. I'm really enjoying it. This one sort of kind of picks up where the events of the first book left off. I'm not sure exactly how much time passed in the first book. I would say almost a year, like maybe 8 months, something like that if I had to guess. But it starts on her 16th birthday, and this one starts on her 17th birthday. And because of the events of the first book, I don't really want to like spoil anything, so I'm going to keep my thoughts pretty vague. I like that you're seeing it like kind of like the first year, and then this is the second year, and I'm hoping that the third book will be like the next year, like on the eve of her, or the day of her 18th birthday. And this one has a lot more to do politically so far than the first one. I think in the first one, Elise was really getting her footing in the new world, what do you call it? I don't know. Anyway, in the new Joya place. Does this one even have a map? No, this one does not have a map. I wish it did. Why did they not do that? Anyway, despite that, basically she became queen of a new kingdom, and she went there, and at first it was a secret. And then like several things happened, and then there was a really like explosive ending. And then in this book, it's kind of following those events, but it's more politically minded so far. Like because of the events of the first book, it's dealing with a lot of the fallout, a lot of the changes and so forth that happened in the first book to this book. And you just get to see more of the characters that you love, like Elise and her handmaid and a couple of other like people. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's quite thrilling right from the very beginning. I think that's what I have stated about the first book, is that you're immediately drawn in from the first chapter. It's immediately pulls you in. You're right back in the story. Everything is explained well enough that you never feel lost or like you're having to like piece together connections. You just seamlessly follow the story, and everything is interesting. A couple of really important things have already happened, and we're not even like 50% of the way through the story. But I don't think that the main thing of the story has even happened yet. But I think that's what's great about like the first book. It was great, and then this book is great, is that there's like not just one thing that happens. It's not all build up to one thing and then that thing happens and then you're coming down off of that thing. It's more of like a series of events, of big events that lead up to a bigger event. I don't know. Am I explaining that good? I don't think so, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm really rooting for certain characters. I'm really shipping certain characters, and I really want to stab certain characters. So there's that. Good morning, friends. It's Sunday, January 26th, and I'm really sorry that I didn't update you guys more yesterday with my reading. I was really sick, and I slept at least 50% of the day away, which was so disappointing because it was a Saturday, and the weather was actually really nice, and I just read and slept. That was my day yesterday.
and more often than not I was sleeping, just because my throat hurt so much. I had a massive headache and I was just so tired. I mentioned a while back in a video that I was getting sick, and I finally started to get over that, but right as I wasn't 100%, I was about maybe 80% better, 75% better, I started to get sick again, and I've just been really exhausted, and yeah, my throat's been hurting and headaches pop out of nowhere. I've been drinking my throat coat tea, I've been taking Secrets, and when I wake up, it's the worst. So like right this side of my neck, it hurts so bad. I mean, this one hurts too, but this one is like really swollen. So the good news, however, is that I managed to finish The Crown of Embers, the second book in the Fire and Thorns series by Rae Carson. Well, I should say trilogy. It's not really a series. I wish it was. So I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. I expect I'm gonna love the entire trilogy. There were things in the first book that I loved more, but there's different things in this that I loved more. So there's some things in the first book that I really liked. What I loved about the first book is that I loved that it featured a fat main character. I loved the rich descriptions of food and just the surroundings and the desert, and I loved how the plot was going one way and then it did a 360, or it did a 180 and went in a completely different direction. So I loved the pacing of that book. I loved the characters in that book, and I liked the hints of political, religious, just other little things. Now this one, it focuses this one focuses much more on the political, but it also has a lot to do with people are after the Godstone bearer like never before. So in this one, Elisa, more people know about her being the bearer of the Godstone, and people in her own court are trying to kill her. So it's really interesting. There's like poison, and there's attempts on her life several different times, and it's crazy because like she doesn't know who she can trust and who she can't, and it's such a wild ride. There's adventure and there's magic and but I still love the characters, and I still love the ways everything is explained, not in an info dumpy way, in a descriptive, easy to digest way. And Elisa is really coming into her own person. In the first book, she was 16 years old, and now she is 17 years old. And I know that's like an impossibly young age to consider like she's a queen and she's going through this, but for the sake of the argument, we'll just say that she's finally like growing up and realizing that like she's a queen and she has power that most people don't, and she needs to use that powerfully or in the correct way. I don't know. Now that means I'm going to be moving on to the third and final book in the trilogy, The Bitter Kingdom, and I'm really interested to see where this is going. I'm hoping that this picks up when she's 18, so we get to see a little bit more maturity. I also like how, even though this didn't pick up exactly where the other book ended, you still felt the passage of time, but also it didn't feel like, and here's what you missed between the first and second book. You know, it was just like a seamless job. Like you can imagine what happened between the first book and the second book, and it also told you, but not like right in the beginning, so it felt info dumpy. So I'm hoping in this one that she's 18 years old and that she gets everything that she wants. Okay friends, I'm here with a non-update. So
It's been about an hour since I told you I'm gonna start reading The Bitter Kingdom, and guys, I'm having such a hard time starting this, and it's because I don't want it to be over, and it's 433 pages. And I just don't want it to be over, you guys. Hi friends, I just wanted to update you really quickly. My husband and dog are outside, so forgive her barking, but I did pick up Bitter Kingdom. I did start reading it. As you can see, I'm not very far. I'm on page 92 of 433 pages. And I am savoring it. This one is quite different than the other two books in the trilogy because they're just from Elisa's point of view. This one has 2 points of view, and I'm loving it. Although, if you listen to it on audio, I don't mind Elisa's narrator, but I don't like the other POV's narrator. So there's that. Good morning, friends. Look at my eyebrows. It's Monday morning. It is 7:22, and I thought I would update you on Bitter Kingdom. I mentioned last night that this one has 2 POVs. I think that's going to stop now. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, the first, I'm gonna say chunk, the first part, our main little group, ragtag group of characters is going on quite an adventure. They're traversing across land. I guess I could tell you, they're going from Hoya, and they're going across this Sierra Sangre, and so they're starting like here, and they're going across like this part to head towards Inverness right here. So they're traveling quite a great distance, and it's also a very unforgiving landscape, but they've also stopped in some villages and stuff like that too. But then like after a while the villages stop. One of the most interesting things that I thought was included in here that we didn't really get any in the other books is it also talks about mixed race. So, and how they're viewed and stuff like that. It also has slavery, child slavery. I like how they were included. I like the discussion around it, and I like the results of characters finding out about mixed race, the results of the characters finding out about childhood slavery, specifically like one slave that they ran across in a free village, and what's become of that so far, I'll say. But now I'm moving on to chapter 17, which is part 2. And I'm about 33% of the way done. It's so unlike any of the other books because the first one was obviously political, and Elisa was 16 and she was being married off to the king of La Jolla, or however you say it, and she went there and she's trying to like find her footing as a queen, but not announced queen to that kingdom yet, and or region. I don't know, do you call it a king? I guess kingdom, so Bitter Kingdom, so yeah, okay, I'll call it a kingdom. So she's trying to find her footing there, and obviously she's the bearer of the Godstone, so there's a lot of like political, religious, you know, finding your way type things in the first book. And then there is, in the second book, it's much more political. It's about surviving in this kingdom that now knows that she has the Godstone, and people want to kill her because of that, and near-death escapes and stuff like that. And in this one, there's not so much political stuff going on right now. She's finding about political stuff in other regions, not really her own. But I like how she's keeping her friends close and trusting her instincts more. But this is much more of a like road trip story
with no car and no road, with horses and like these trails that they have to cut themselves off to rescue someone. So yeah, very interesting so far. I am enjoying it. I just like these characters that we're following. I like their bond and their like relationship to each other, I will say, and their banter back and forth and how they work so well together. And while one's really strong in this, another's really strong in this, but at the end of the day, they always turn towards Elisa and be like, well, what do you think? What do you say? Because she is the queen. So yeah, but she trusts her people enough, or at least these people enough, to be able to like follow their suggestion or their advice. And I just think that's really cool. Good morning, friends. It is Tuesday, January 28th, which means I really need to finish Bitter Kingdom today so I can film my January wrap up. I made a huge dent in this last night. I think I'm 72% finished, and what is going on with my watch? And before that, I was only 33% of the way through. So I read quite a bit last night. Was mistaken about the second POV. We have had that POV maybe once or twice since I told you, oh, it's probably over. So that's been interesting. I think just once, but I liked it. Anyway, yeah, I want to finish this today. I'm on chapter 32, page 314. It's crazy how much stuff is packed into this book. The journey, they get to the destination, things happen, journey. It's just, it's almost like one of those things that like, what else could possibly go wrong? Can anything be easy for these characters? No. Did they have to eat one of their own horses? Yes. Like, Guess what, guys? It's official. I finished Bitter Kingdom by Rae Carson, the third and final book in the Girl of Fire and Thorns trilogy, or Fire and Thorns trilogy. I don't know what it's called. These awesome, amazing YA fantasy stories about this young lady named Elisa who is married off to this king in a different kingdom, and it's just adventure and like political, religion, like everything you can imagine. It's so well done. You come to care about characters that go on these adventures together, and it's just so well done because the writing is easy to follow. Everything's well explained without being info dumpy, and it's just, it's one of my favorites, you guys. I think I've said it several times that each book is really different. The first one is all about her going to the kingdom, that whole thing. The second one is about like everyone follows the events of the previous book, so I'm trying to be kind of vague so I don't spoil anything, but there's things that happen in every single book that keep you on the edge of your seat. And yeah, it's just so good, and I'm so happy with the conclusion. I feel like I could continue to follow these characters and what happens next. But yeah, these came out, this final book at least came out in 2013. So yeah, this is a pretty old series, but if you're looking for a beginner YA fantasy trilogy, definitely consider these. But that's all for this video. I finally finished the trilogy. I'm rating all 3 books 5 out of 5 stars, and I just can't recommend them enough. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I gave you enough information to spark your interest to pick them up. Let me know which trilogy you want me to read and vlog next time, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.